Now, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin are three states that helped put Donald Trump in the White House in 2016. This time, however, Republicans are thinking that it might not be that easy. So now that's interesting because, look, you know how Hillary Clinton lost these incredibly crucial states after, for one, failing to campaign there. I mean, workers in Michigan literally begged her and her campaign to send more resources and staff to be able to campaign in that state. But she had no interest in campaigning there, no interest in the Midwest. I don't know why she made that decision. One of the biggest, I think, political blunders of her career, uh, losing to Donald Trump. I mean, that in itself, embarrassing. Now, I'm not trying to rehash 2016, or I'm just letting you know that that decision lost her the electoral college. Donald Trump was able to win because, unfortunately, here in America, we're not a democracy. We don't have direct, elections. It goes to the electoral college, which has decided, without the popular vote, quite a few presidencies, including George W. Bush and now Donald Trump. So, well, that's a disaster. Maybe Democrats should actually think about doing something about the electoral college. It is, after all, a relic of slavery. But anyway, now Wisconsin Republicans are now concerned that there might not be a repeat in their state. Now, this is Brandon Schultz, former executive director of the Wisconsin Republican Party. And he's talking to Politico, and he told him this, quote, "For the president to win Wisconsin again, he's not going to have the free ride he had last time." As Republican, right? He's not going to have Hillary Clinton sitting on her hands. He's going to have a completely engaged opposition party on the ground. So that's important, right? So now, the article mentions that Milwaukee and Madison are reliably Democratic. So no matter what, the votes are going to go to the Democrat, no matter who it is. Okay. However, where Trump really did well, at least when it comes to Wisconsin, uh, was in the more conservative WOW counties, Waukesha, Ozaukee, and Washington. Now, those are the counties that surround those big population centers, and it's where Republicans generally do better. Now, Donald Trump didn't really do impressively well, but did well enough to win those counties. So that's important context, right? So now, Charles Franklin, who's a Marquette Law School pollster, said this, quote, "It isn't that the Republican Party is withering away in the WOW counties. It was that they weren't particularly thrilled with Trump, and they showed it by not voting for him." Again, he didn't get a gigantic majority. In fact, he actually did worse than Mitt Romney had previously. And of course, Mitt Romney was the loser in 2012. So now, he also says that Trump still struggles to get more than 40% approval, even in the WOW counties. It really is an open question about whether Republicans have come back to him here. My guess would be probably not. It's gotten much, much worse for Trump. He's actually deeply unpopular. Now, more. According to Politico, Trump's performance in those counties in 2016 had fallen behind Mitt Romney, and Republican voters are still worried about the president's character and temperament. Well, with good reason. Now, Aaron Perry, a Waukesha alderman who changed his party affiliation from Republican to Democrat, so he left the party because of Donald Trump, he said this, quote, "There comes a point where everybody has their own threshold of how much they can take. We're getting to the point now where there's no way he's gaining supporters. The only way for Trump to go is down. And there's not much down to go." Okay. And look, we see that in the polls. Let's go to Michigan, right? Now, this is according to Real Clear Politics. So they've taken a lot of averages, right? In Michigan, every Democrat beats Donald Trump. For example, Joe Biden, an average about 10 to 12 points. Bernie Sanders, around 7 to 10 points. Elizabeth Warren, I think about 4 points. Kamala Harris, even Klobuchar beats Donald Trump in an average of polling by about 6 points. Disaster. Now, there are only two polls out in Wisconsin. One was back in August, and the other was back in March. Um, and both of them had Biden, because that's the only person they decided to poll against Trump, which is, I think, is strange. But and so yes, this might be a little bit of an outlier, and it doesn't really matter as much because there's not as much polling behind it. But still, the two polls that they took in Wisconsin had Trump behind by 9 points in a general election matchup. So again, disaster. No wonder Republicans are starting to get in panic mode in some of these states. Now, this has led to the Republican strategy to basically scaremonger about the Democrats. This is fun. Now, this is according to GOP strategist. Let's see. I didn't get his name here, actually, which is strange. His last name was Fauci. He's a former never Trumper, now backs the president. He said this, quote, "They don't like the Twitter, regarding, of course, Trump supporters. They're nervous about the tariffs, but they're scared witless about Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, or Pete Buttigieg." Buttigieg. Oh my God. They're so scary, right? Well, maybe Mayo P is a little bit scary. I literally had a podium that said disaster on it. But anyway, when it comes to Bernie Sanders, for example, oh my God, he's gonna take away my health insurance and actually give me health care that's actually better than what I have right now. That covers more, no co-pays, deductibles, or anything like that, and lower premiums, or no premiums, just slightly higher tax rates. But it balances out to where you actually pay less. Oh my God, horrible, terrible. No, how am I going to get denied by my health care now? I love my private insurance. Says no one. Look, here's the thing. The Republican priorities, right? I wouldn't say priorities. Their priorities are obviously for the rich, right? Their playbook is lying about progressive proposals and policy. Now, what's interesting is even though they lie about progressive policy, they also kind of run on their own type. Look, for example, Donald Trump ran on universal health care in 2016. He says, oh, no, I'm going to get everybody health care. It's going to be tremendous. Nobody's going to die in the streets. He also ran on protecting Medicare and Social Security. His last few budget proposals cut both Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So, that obvious lie, right? And look, he's long advocated for universal health care. In fact, in the 2000 book, the America We Deserve, he wrote, "We must have universal health care. We should not hear so many stories of families ruined by healthcare expenses." And you want stories? I've got a segment that I'm doing about people's stories. Let's just say that they're absolutely heartbreaking. Now, you even talked about how Canada's publicly funded healthcare system is a model worth emulating. Also, he talked about how much better Australia's healthcare system is than America. That's a single payer system. Oops. He also ran against the Iraq War. Said that was a stupid conflict, that we should not be involved in that conflict. Also, he said we're going to go after the global financial elite. Now, it turns out that happens to be more anti-Semitic than anything. But at the time, you could say, look, Wall Street crashed the economy. They've been taking insane risks with depositor money and with the economy in order to get lots of short-term profit. So I guess if you hear that and you're not anti-Semitic, which again, that's one of those anti-Semitic tropes. But if you're not, and if you don't think that way, you think, oh, great, they're taking on the Wall Street greed. Well, that's great, because I hate Wall Street greed. They crash the economy, and right now they're corrupt. So wonderful. He also ran on things like let's clean up the swamp or let's drain the swamp. He only drained the swamp into his pockets. or as Kyle Kalinske said, right into his mouth. Gross. But so Republicans, and he's not the only one to run on this stuff. Dave Brat, who defeated Eric Cantor, ran against the banks. You also have Mitch McConnell, again, in his local race in Kentucky, running against, running in favor, I should say, of Connect, which is Kentucky's version of Obamacare, and also running against corruption, which is hilarious, and protecting Medicare and Social Security. So Republicans run on progressive policy. They just don't know it. Well, the voters don't know it, but they know it. The people that are running, they know it, and they actively lie to people in their campaigns. So anyway, they don't mean any of it. That's the point. But those positions, they are popular. They are progressive. Now, if Democrats run a corporate establishment candidate like Buttigieg or Biden, well, then Trump is lucky because he gets to run another campaign against the establishment. And that's what gained him popularity in the first place. Although, look, it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to do that since he's shown himself to be a complete liar, but only if you've been paying attention. And if you haven't been paying attention the last few years, then, well, there's a chance that people could fall for that again. But still, this strategy of demonizing popular policies, I think is going to backfire. And I think Trump is going to have nothing to run on. And that's why they're freaking out. Now, I'm not saying the victory, of course, is guaranteed against Trump. I don't want people to get complacent or anything. There's a lot that can go wrong. But at the same time, there's good reason for these Republicans to be incredibly worried about this enthusiasm gap for Donald Trump in these very important states. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.